Retirement is often seen as a destination, but we believe it's an opportunity to pursue your passions, realize your dreams, and live a purposeful life. Great decisions, incredible lives. Retire with Intention podcast is about more than just money. It's about embracing the things that truly matter, the experiences, the relationships, and the impact you leave behind. Here is your host, John Creekmur.
Well, welcome to the Great Decisions, Incredible Lives, Retire with Intention podcast. John Creekmur here. And just like every single week, I love to introduce you to just some friends of ours and friends of our firm that brings so much value to the conversation about what it is about having an incredible life, and then also how do you make great decisions. And such great feedback from so many people just about the variety of folks that have talked, some different clients and friends of ours, and the way they walk through life, and they've lived with life with intention, and they're seeing some incredible things. And attorneys and CPAs and CFPs and technology CEOs of companies. And today I've got the wonderful privilege of a friend of our firm, Morgan from StoneCastle, and having her walk through what StoneCastle is, but also talk specifically about making incredible decisions and how cash really factors into that. Morgan, before we get started, do you want to give us an introduction to everybody as far as yourself and also StoneCastle and who you are and what StoneCastle is?
Absolutely, John. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. It's a pleasure to be here and be joining you in what is a very timely conversation today around cash management. As mentioned, my name is Morgan Ludovico. I am Senior Vice President here at StoneCastle Cash Management in New York City. We are one of the nation's leading providers of FDIC insured deposit programs for both institutional as well as individual investors. I'm very excited to speak with you more about what we have to offer and certainly appreciate your partnership.
Hey, Morgan, before we get started, could you give everyone a definition of an institutional versus a retail investor and how that's different?
Absolutely. So when I say institutional, and that is StoneCastle's background, the program we're talking about was founded in 2009. That's when it came to market as an institutional facing program and enhanced savings account solution for entities like Fortune 500 companies, endowments, foundations, public funds, family offices, universities, colleges, municipalities, the list goes on. When I say individual, I mean, high net worth individuals, ultra high net worth individual investors, joint accounts, and, natural, regular old persons, if you will.
Yep. Nice. So really pretty much when we talk to a lot of different folks here, as far as on our podcast, we have regular old folks like you and I, and different business owners and heads of endowments and not-for-profit organizations. And so really our topic today is going to be hitting home on how in the world do we manage cash, what is cash, and how do we actually maximize it in a responsible way. And it's just interesting that the whole topic of cash has changed over the years. It really is an asset class, it's a cornerstone solution everyone has to deal with every single day. And up until way back in March of 2020, cash was kind of a boring subject. I mean, it was paying nothing. It was just sitting there. It's kind of getting dusty in your savings account. And maybe you made a penny or two here and there. And that was about it. But all of a sudden, then in March of 2020, we entered as far as different lockdowns around the world as far as because of a pandemic and good, bad, right or wrong, a lot of decisions that were made from the Federal Reserve, Treasury, and from the Congress and the presidential office, and those decisions, we always say truth and time on those. And so wherever you sit, we let truth and time be our guiding principle. And yet we know decisions have consequences. And so lowered interest rates down as far as to stimulate the economy. Then all of a sudden, then we raised interest rates up a little bit here in the last year. And that's all of a sudden made cash become a bigger conversation. Morgan, what have you seen as far as changing interest rates, and how much have they changed, and why is that a big topic as far as when we talk about StoneCastle and cash investments?
You're absolutely right, John. Cash, historically speaking, not the most exciting, not the sexiest topic of conversation, but here we are in 2023, and it just might be the most exciting, which is remarkable. We've seen over the last 12 to 18 months so many changes to this environment and a number of culminating factors that have resulted in really this brightly shining light on cash management. I'm confident that almost everyone listening to this has seen the headlines in major publications that have brought attention to the topic and alternatives in the space. You mentioned interest rates. Interest rates are, of course, at the forefront, the major driving factor that has brought attention to this topic. The Fed has moved in a historic manner in the last, year and a half with 11 consecutive rate increases. And so naturally, folks are then going to say, am I earning a competitive rate of return? Am I using a program or an account or a solution for my cash management that's reacting to this Fed activity? And not just reacting, but reacting in a very timely and appropriate manner. And so it's been a huge deal for sure. But that said, there's been a lot of other things that have happened that have led to safety being perhaps a forefront runner here just as much as interest rates. The importance of safety and safety being key and protection of assets. So what we saw earlier this year was several regional bank failures, big names collapsing. We've seen other banks in headlines with a negative connotation around them. Recently, we've seen Moody's and other ratings agencies come out with several downgrades. And so that has heightened uncertainty, heightened emotions, and specifically brought a lot of attention to the concept of FDIC insurance and making sure that every penny of our short-term assets is protected. It's also led to the term uninsured deposits to be a trending topic right now and for the last several months for all investors.
So you said every penny. So can you give some definitions to FDIC insurance? What is covered? What is not covered? What is an uninsured deposit? Which is a phrase that I think a lot of people really had never heard until this last year. And so can you give us some clarity and some definitions on all that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the U.S., FDIC insurance is offered up to $250,000 per tax ID through a single bank. So for example, if I am a small business owner and I have $500,000 sitting in my Bank of America checking or savings account, only half of that is backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. The rest is at risk should there be, a never say never scenario that occurs. When we saw, let's say Silicon Valley Bank fail earlier this year, we're talking billions of dollars in uninsured deposits on their books, meaning investors or account holders having an account in excess of $250,000 at that bank. And so when we're talking about protection of assets, we want to make sure that every penny we're holding in an account like this has that insurance.
It's interesting. We've had a lot of people over the years come to us, and it's usually not the individual. It's usually their heirs or beneficiaries for parents of different investment accounts, and the parent tried to be diversified, so they maybe have money in 10 or 12 or 15 different banks up to that FDIC limit. And then all of a sudden, then now the family is left with trying to bring it all together. And plus, they also have the issues of as far as all the 1099 forms. And so we see people trying to navigate that uninsured deposit in different ways. And so you're right, it's become a huge point of discussion because your cash investments, you want them to be safe. You're saying, I'm taking no risk on this money, and I want it to be safe. And so it's become really prevalent. So when we think about this podcast, and a key guiding principle at Creekmur Wealth Advisors is that we help good people make great decisions to live incredible lives. And so when you think about that phrase, how does cash play a part of that?
Cash plays a huge part in that, primarily because it's the most widely held asset class. Cash is the foundation of every financial plan. So certainly from an advisor's standpoint, it's the one thing, any client that comes into your office or crosses your desk, there's an opportunity to bring value in this realm. So when we're talking about cash, again, as the foundation of the financial plan, and we're wanting to make great decisions, it's really important that that foundation is strong and solid. And that's an area where we're spending some time and research, making sure we have the tools at our disposal that are most appropriate. So, John, you're in your business, you're dealing with a lot of high net worth individuals, and these same folks, they're often business owners. Maybe they sit on the board of a foundation or an HOA, or they're associated with a nonprofit, that they hold really near and dear to their heart. All all of these organizations have cash needs, as do those individuals, and many of them specifically are focused on FDIC insurance. So we've seen a really big uptick in these types of accounts, in particular, organizations that perhaps have a charter or investment policy statement that, says cash has to be liquid, it has to be FDIC insured at all times. And so, to your point, they then have a list of banks that they go to make sure that they're covered. But what that leads to is, little attention on rate of return. Rate of return kind of becomes a secondary tenet. And so at StoneCastle, we offer a program with the aim in mind of consolidating things through extended FDIC insurance, simplifying cash management, making sure every dollar is protected, but also potentially earning more.
Yeah, not too phenomenal. So when you think about it, we have a problem. And the problem is we have excess cash above FDIC insurability at one place. We also have an opportunity to earn some interest. And so let's talk about specifically StoneCastle. Who is StoneCastle? Are you guys a bank? And so what is StoneCastle? And then you just mentioned the solution that you have. Let's walk through what that is.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, we are not a bank. We're not a brokerage. We have no affiliation with any other financial institution. StoneCastle is an independent. We're in Manhattan. We're backed by CIBC and Charles Bank Capital Partners. But essentially, we are the administrator and technology provider of FDIC insured deposit programs. We've built a bank network that allows us to offer some great benefits to depositors. But the short answer to your question is no, we're not a bank. We don't custody assets. We are, the administrator of the program. And what that program is the federally insured cash account, or FICA. FICA offers a rate that's 10 times what the average bank savings rate is today, which is roughly 40 to 50 basis points, 0.4 or to 0.5%. So 10 times that roughly. Overnight liquidity, so there's zero lockup period, and FDIC insurance to what is a truly unprecedented level in the market at $100 million per account. And so when we're talking about importance of safety and rising interest rates and the changing cash environment and money fund reform this year and debt ceiling concerns, et cetera, the list goes on. The goal of the FICA program is to not only address all of these, events and head on, but render them irrelevant, help folks sleep well at night, fuel their confidence in the decisions that they're making, and ultimately keep them above all the headlines that we're talking about.
So you mentioned FDIC insurance up to $100 million, and you also use the phrase a bank network. Can you talk about how that bank network inside the account, kind of how structurally, how does that work? And then how do we get up to $100 million potentially of FDIC insurance?
Absolutely. So we've been building our bank network since 2009 when this program came to market. Today, it stands at just under 1,000 well-capitalized banks across all 50 states. And so what we're doing is we're allocating the deposits in increments of $250,000 or less per institution, per tax ID, so that the end depositor has, again, one account, one statement, one consolidated 1099, but access to almost 1,000 banks and therefore $100 million in FDIC insurance. I think scale is a really important part of this conversation. We don't have 10 or 20 or 30 banks. We've got almost 1,000. And so what that does is it mitigates a lot of risk. It mitigates risk in terms of, the heightened emotions around the banking industry at large. Are my assets truly safe? We have a team of analysts that is responsible for ongoing monitoring of every one of these institutions in our network. And so we're able to identify red flags ahead of time and really do that due diligence on behalf of the depositor and remove that responsibility from their plate. Scale is also important in terms of rate. The flip side here, really, without going down a major rabbit hole, is that the banks in this network look to StoneCastle as a reliable, cost-effective, flexible source of funding. And so there's major incentive for them to keep rates competitive as the Fed move so that they maintain control over their balance sheet, which is the purpose of, this program from the bank's point of view. What that means for the small business owner or the individual or the corporation, that is utilizing this for cash management is that the rate is going to be competitive regardless of interest rate environment. Relatively speaking, will be competitive because we are, again, negotiating on behalf passive on their behalf with this network of banks to make sure that, it's always a great rate of return.
So you keep on mentioning two key concepts. One is safety. And when you kind of think about the safety, it's not just the safety of the account, and it's not the fact that we have the safety of the FDIC insurance, but it's also the higher level degree of safety of saying, okay, now we have a team of analysts that are actually looking at each individual bank. We're actually evaluating them as far as on their stability, as far as on their ratios, to make sure that they are not going to be having a stumble along the way that we're not aware of. And if they are becoming less strong, then they would probably be removed from the network at some point to actually increase the level of safety. So safety is huge. And then the other is that competitive interest rate. And so those two things going hand to hand, it seems to me that's really what StoneCastle is all about. But then you provide that on this platform. And personally, we use StoneCastle on the individual side or the business side. Talk about a little bit about the platform you have from a technology standpoint. When people go in, they have one account, but they might see on their statement or inside their account a whole bunch of different banks. And so that just simplifies and consolidates for them.
Correct. Yeah. So it's a fully digital, streamlined experience. You have access to a one-stop shop online interface that will show you all of your account information, allow you to download your monthly statement, download your annual 1099, which again is consolidated. Of course, it's one 1099. But to your point, John, yes, there's daily transparency into exactly what banks your assets are being held at, the dollar amount at each of those banks. And then to take it a step further, we allow depositors to have a degree of control where they're able to exclude specific institutions. For example, let's say Bank XYZ is where I have my primary checking account, and sometimes I have a good deal of cash held there. Let's exclude XYZ from our FICA allocation to make sure we're never exceeding FDIC limits. So you do have that transparency into exactly what's happening with your account, and it's all through one central location. The account opening process is also fully digital and very straightforward and simple.
So you said liquidity. How liquid is the money? What does that mean to people? Is it like momentary, or is it like over a week? What does liquid mean?
So liquid in our case is next day liquidity. So there's a 3 p.m. Eastern cutoff for same day processing of a withdrawal, and that will be in your account the following day. We move money via ACH or wire. So clients can link outside bank accounts. They can also link a brokerage account. So you have, one central savings account through StoneCastle, but you have all of your other, entities and institutions linked there and seamless money movement. But short answer is next day liquidity.
Nice. So we've talked about the savings rate of 10 times the national average, FDIC insurance up to $100 million potentially. We're talking liquidity that's really instant liquidity on a 24-hour or next day availability. We're talking ease of use in the system, one 1099 form, and so a lot of big solutions. So from what you're seeing, Morgan, what type of clients are finding the best value inside the FICA program?
Well, I have to reiterate here that, of course, that cash is the most widely held asset class. So this list could be very long because there's opportunity to bring value to anyone. But some of the major opportunities are high net worth, ultra high net worth individuals and cash that is held away. And what I mean by held away is held outside of their advisory, relationship, or investment account. I want to cite here Capgemini puts out a wonderful world wealth report every year. And what we found in 2023 was very interesting. The average high net worth individual is holding 10% more of their household wealth in cash as opposed to 2022. So it actually went from 24 to now 34%. And the majority of those assets are held, again, in traditional brick and mortar banks, online savings accounts, where they're oftentimes not fully insured. They're often not earning a rate of return that they could if they had another solution at their disposal. That's number one, held away cash. And just to give you the numbers there to demonstrate that further, it's over 4 trillion in deposits earning zero interest and over 5 trillion, almost 6 trillion uninsured. So staggering numbers.
Did you say 4 million earning no interest? Is that right? Or that's uninsured?
over $4 trillion, earning zero interest. And that, as of last quarter in the U.S. banking.
Wow, that is huge. I'm sure there's people that are listening that are like, you got to be kidding me. And they're probably also looking at their accounts saying, what am I really earning? And, for one of the not-for-profits I work with, just looking at their monthly statement and all of a sudden realizing that they were actually making 0.1% at a period of time when interest rates have went up. They just had never looked at their statement close enough to recognize what this was. We did this quick audit. It made it pretty simple. Make a decision. And so I'd encourage everyone, go and look at your statements and see what is it you're making on your cash. You might be surprised, and just some phenomenal tools to be able to use things. Hey, Morgan, as we're wrapping up, any other key things that you think are critical for people to understand or hear, or any other thoughts you have that are really go off the conversation as it relates to StoneCastle, FICA, or anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to just build on the last comments I made and with some other really common uses, because I think making this tangible for folks is the most important thing. Liquidity events. You sell a business, you sell a home, you have an inheritance come in the door. Usually, where is that going to be parked? In a bank, right? Right. It's going to be a wonderful parking spot that makes sure those assets are fully protected, they're accessible, they're earning a better rate of return. We talked about business accounts and nonprofits, but trust as well. Trust in estate plans. So that's a huge thing we see. And when we're talking specifically about retirees, maybe they're looking to maximize the value of RMDs taken monthly or in a lump sum. It's really important for those folks that cash is kept 100% protected in retirement and it's earning as much as possible, because that will have a direct impact and improve their lifestyle. So like I said, I could go on all day with how this is used, but I think overall, the message here is cash is a very hot topic right now. There are alternative solutions out there that will help you meet your goals, help you sleep well at night, and be confident ultimately that you are making a really great decision for your financial health and for your life. And it's, a pleasure to be, one solution in the industry that fits that bill with the FICA program. Again, average rate 10 times the average bank, 100 million FDIC insurance, full liquidity, streamlined process, enhanced savings account solution. And I'll add that there's no fee to utilize this as well. Wow. This is the no explicit fee program.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Morgan, thank you so much for your time today. Phenomenal conversation and such great information. I really appreciate it. Our listeners do too. And, I just know everybody has a solution or a need for a cash solution. And to make sure that we want to have safety in there, you want to make sure it's liquid. You also earn a very competitive rate of return. I would encourage you in the show notes, check out some links for Morgan as far as how to get more information on StoneCastle, how to open up an account, and really is the list of information as far as to answer any questions you have. Always feel free to reach out to us at Creekmur Wealth Advisors. We'd love to walk you through it. And so, Morgan, again, just thank you so much for your time. It's greatly appreciated. Everybody else, thank you so much for listening again to Great Decisions, Incredible Lives. And remember to live that in life with great intention and see impact happen all around you. We'll talk to you all again next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you again for listening to the Great Decisions, Incredible Lives, Retire with Intention podcast with host John Creekmur. Follow us on social media, visit our website, and join our community of like-minded individuals redefining retirement and living incredible lives. Please leave us a review and share our podcast with others who may benefit. We wish you a future filled with purpose, fulfillment, and the joy of living your incredible life in retirement.